If you study history closely enough, you start noticing patterns that modern convenience has erased. In 1940s England, millions slept through winters with rationed fuel, unreliable electricity, blackout curtains blocking solar gain, and houses designed long before central heating. Yet people survived night after night without freezing. These methods weren't theories. They were daily practice refined under pressure. Before we get into it, if you value historically grounded survival knowledge like this, subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles, like the video, and leave a comment with your own cold weather techniques. Now let's get straight to the methods. The bed itself was treated as insulation, not furniture. In wartime England, the bed was engineered as a heat retention system. Mattresses were often stuffed with horsehair, wool or flock, all materials that trap air rather than compress flat. Many households placed boards or folded newspapers under thin mattresses to block cold air rising from unheated floors. You can apply this today by adding a rigid layer beneath your mattress if you sleep above a cold crawl space or concrete slab. Even a wooden pallet or dense foam panel reduces heat loss upward and keeps body warmth where it belongs. Layering followed a strict thermal order that modern bedding ignores. People did not rely on a single thick blanket. The system started with a cotton or linen sheet to manage moisture, followed by multiple wool blankets, and sometimes topped with an eiderdown or quilt. Wool was, absolutely critical, because it insulates even when it's damp, and, it regulates temperature instead of just trapping sweat. To replicate this, you should avoid relying on synthetic comforters alone. Use a breathable base layer, then stack natural fibre blankets, making sure to keep the densest layer on top. That way, you prevent compressing the insulating air pockets beneath. Bed warming happened before sleep, not during it. Hot water bottles were, honestly, standard household equipment, not luxuries. These were placed at the foot of the bed or along the spine 20 to 30 minutes before sleeping, warming the mattress and blankets rather than the person directly. This preheating reduced the energy your body needed to warm the bed once inside. These days, this can be recreated with modern rubber bottles, heated stones wrapped in cloth, or even pre-warmed bricks. The principle is simple. Warm the environment first, then let your body maintain it. Clothing was part of the sleep system, not an afterthought. Sleeping naked was pretty uncommon back then. Folks usually wore dedicated night garments made of flannel or wool blends. These were often loose, to trap warm air around the body. And socks, those were a staple, especially the hand-knitted wool ones. They kept your feet warm while still allowing good circulation, without any uncomfortable constriction. So, if you're thinking of trying this nowadays, it's best to choose sleepwear that insulates without compressing. Just avoid those tight synthetic layers, as they can restrict blood flow, and that's not ideal for a good night's sleep. Funny thing is, when used properly, a good wool base layer can actually outperform electric blankets, especially during power outages. It's a simple, reliable way to stay warm. Curtains, blackout measures, and bed placement reduced heat loss. Blackout curtains were mandatory during the Blitz, but they also reduced heat loss through windows. Beds were often moved away from exterior walls and windows, sometimes closer to chimneys or shared walls where residual warmth lingered. You can still apply this by repositioning beds away from cold surfaces and using thick curtains or layered fabric panels at night. You know, heat retained is heat not needed to be generated. Canopies and enclosed beds, well, they created microclimates. Older homes, especially out in the countryside during the 1940s, still used bed curtains or partial enclosures just to keep a bit more warmth in. These clever setups reduce the volume of air your body needed to warm up. A modern equivalent, really, is a heavy throw draped just right over the bed frame, or even a fabric canopy that stops the airflow but doesn't seal in moisture. This technique is extremely effective in unheated rooms, and honestly, it requires no power at all. Shared warmth was normalized and practical, you know. Multiple people sharing a bed was common, especially among children or extended families. Body heat was a resource, plain and simple. Even pets were allowed near the bed for warmth, and today this principle still applies during emergencies when heating fails. Sharing sleeping space, clustering beds, or sleeping in one room can, you know, dramatically reduce fuel use and heat loss. Nighttime ventilation was controlled, not eliminated. Despite the cold, windows were often cracked slightly to manage condensation and prevent dampness, which honestly made cold feel worse. The key was minimal airflow, not drafts. Modern homes can copy this by allowing slight ventilation while blocking direct air movement across the bed, preventing moisture buildup without sacrificing warmth. Fuel-saving habits, you know, really reinforce nighttime warmth. People would eat heavier evening meals, often including fats and carbohydrates, just to fuel overnight body heat. A warm drink before bed was pretty common, but alcohol was limited since it actually increased heat loss. Applying this today means making sure you eat enough calories before sleep during cold conditions and, well, avoiding substances that disrupt thermoregulation. Now, why do these methods still matter today? Well, none of these techniques rely on electricity, modern insulation, or central heating, so, you see, they're just as useful now as they were back then. They're repeatable, scalable, and, most importantly, they've been proven under the stress of wartime. That's why they remain relevant for preppers and historians alike. Whether you're preparing for outages, studying civilian resilience during the Second World War, or maybe you just fancy a colder house lifestyle without the discomfort, these methods still work. That's because, well, human physiology hasn't changed. Just a final reminder, folks, stay connected and, you know, keep on learning. If you found this useful, go ahead and subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles, share this guide with fellow history buffs and preparedness-minded viewers, and, well, leave a comment about which technique surprised you most. This knowledge survived war, rationing, and winters far harsher than most of us will ever face. Honestly, it's worth keeping alive.